Welcome to the Sports Moment from the Washington Post, your ticket to the Summer Olympics. It is Saturday, August 3rd, and I'm Ava Wallace, a sports reporter here in Paris. Today I'm joined by Post reporter Adam Kilgore, who covers track and field for us at the Games. But first, let's do the medal table. Good morning, Adam, and thank you for squeezing us in before you head to Stade de France today.
Hey, what's up, Ava? Good morning.
Okay, so here is the gold medal count as of 8 a.m. this morning in Paris. China is in the lead with 13 gold medals. France and Australia are tied for second with 11 golds each. And the United States has slipped back to fourth with 9 gold medals. But it does still lead in the overall medal count with 43. So the U.S. did not win any gold medals yesterday, Adam, but they did win their first bronze medal in track and field. That was Grant Fisher in the men's 10,000-meter event. For those who don't know, why was that such a big deal?
Well, it was remarkable when you look at the history and really the present of distance running for the United States compared to the rest of the world, particularly the African nations who are just powerhouses. Kenyans, Ethiopians, Ugandan, Joshua Cheptegei have just completely dominated recently. In the U.S.'s history, they had 3 medals since 1912 in that event until last night. And Grant Fisher's story was particularly resonant, interesting, because he had sort of broken into like the global scene around the Tokyo Olympics, and he'd been sort of at World Championships and Olympics. He'd always been like 4th, 5th, 6th.
Just off the podium.
Just off the podium, which it seemed like a 1 second, half second difference. And, technically it was. Seems very small, but it was monumental. I mean, like these guys would always outkick him in the last 100 meters. And it just seemed, even though it was a very small difference, it kind of seemed insurmountable. So about a year ago, Grant Fisher changed coaches. He moved to Park City, Utah to not only train like in a camp at altitude, but to live there. So to get like the whole, full immersion into that oxygen VO2 max building kind of environment. And he decided, I'm going to basically dedicate to my life to that 1 second. And last night, that 1 second became no seconds, and he got on a podium.
Wow. I was going to say, if I got outkicked in the last 100 meters of a 10,000 meter race, it's incredible to take all those losses and say, no, I'm going to do it this time.
At that level, those races are amazing. They're all 100-meter dashes, except after the guys have run either 40, 900. I mean, they're all about the kick. It's amazing how speed matters so much in those races.
Okay, so elsewhere, here are a couple of things folks should know from yesterday very quickly. Carlos Alcaraz cruised into the gold medal match in the tennis tournament here, where he'll meet Novak Djokovic in a rematch of last month's Wimbledon final. Leon Marchand won his 4th gold medal of the Games for France in the 200-meter individual medley, and that was huge for France. In the history of the Olympics, France as a country has won 4 golds in the swimming pool in a single Games just once. That was in London in 2012, and that took 3 individuals and 1 relay team to pull it off. So Leon Marchand has matched that here by himself, and he has at least 1 more relay to go. And the U.S. men's soccer team lost its quarterfinal to Morocco 4-0 to end the deepest run at the Olympics since 2000. Okay, so some quick hits. Kilgore, if people are waiting to see, wait, why are we all the way down in 4th in the gold medal count? Track and field coming up, that might change things, yeah?
I was going to say, when you have that medal count, that's going to change because the U.S. is going to win a lot of medals in track and field. I think broadly, the thing that I see from the U.S. perspective about this meet compared to Tokyo is that the Americans were in a pretty bad place in Tokyo. One, the rules there where you had to get there 5 days beforehand. Right. And that punished the U.S. more than any other country because they were jet lagged when they're trying to run their races still,
Wait, you mean so they couldn't get there earlier than 5 days?
Right, because the pandemic rules, you can only be in the country they didn't want more people in the country than necessary. Yeah. So, athletes could only arrive a certain amount of time before their events.
Sure.
And the U.S. just happened, especially on the men's side, just happened to have a very young kind of cohort making their first Olympic appearances. And it turned out it was the first time that the U.S. men's track team, so not the field, throwing events, stuff like that, but just the running, no gold medals for the men individually for the first time ever at an Olympics. But now all those young sort of possible burgeoning stars they have an Olympics under their belt. They're a little closer into their prime.
Okay, after the break, we're going to talk about some of those names you should be following and the biggest rivalry on the track, Jamaica versus the United States. Kilgore, for people who don't closely follow sprinting, which is me also, I always think of the biggest rivalry on the track as being between Jamaica and the United States. Can you kind of orient us there. Is that still true? Who am I watching out for?
Yes, broadly that is true. Jamaica this year particularly is in a pretty interesting spot where, especially on the women's side, where they have been utterly dominant for recent years. There are three, this kind of golden generation of sprinters. Elaine Thompson-Herah, Sharika Jackson, and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce have won everything. World's Olympics for 2 or 3 cycles now.
Yeah, I saw them in Tokyo.
Yes, they swept the podium in Tokyo in the 100. And so the problem is, though, Elaine Thompson-Herah is not here. She had an Achilles injury. She's out.
Ooh.
Sharika Jackson in a July tune-up for the Olympics suffered a cramp injury. She's scratched from the 100. I think she's going to try to run the 200, but it's not evident that she's in peak form, which is a shame because she's one of the fastest women ever, especially in the 200 meters. And Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is 37 years old and is finally, after like a sort of age-defying, remarkable career, is starting to show a little bit of age. Her fastest time this year, she did win the Jamaican trials, but it was only the 11th fastest time of the year for the women's side. So, and meanwhile, Shakira Richardson is, peaking for powers. Her biggest competition in the 100 might actually end up being like her own training partner, Melissa Jefferson.
Wow. Okay, so I was looking forward to that 200-meter final, but if Sharika Jackson is falling off a little bit, what can you tell me about the U.S. sprinter Gabby Thomas?
Yeah, so it does seem like if Sharika Jackson is indeed going to be hurt and not at her top form, that probably does make Gabby Thomas a favorite in the 200 meters, which is going to give her a chance to win her first sort of like global, major gold medal in an individual event. And it'll sort of give her a bigger platform to sort of show off what is like a really remarkable life. She went to Harvard, and at that point, she wasn't even really considered a major sprinting prospect. Like she went there to study neurobiology and global health.
Wow.
So she's like health policy kinds of things. She really wants to improve and shrink health disparities between Black Americans and white Americans. While she was making the Olympic team in 2021, she was starting her PhD at the University of Texas.
Oh my God.
So she's a fascinating, incredibly appealing person. And if and when she wins a gold medal at the Olympics, like she's going to be one of the biggest stars in the sport.
Jeez. Okay. I feel like an absolute bum. Okay. Speaking of one of the biggest stars in the sport, tell me about Noah Lyles and what you're expecting from him this year. He's, of course, the U.S. sprinter who is the current fastest man in the world. Yeah,
the opportunity for Lyles is massive, and so are the stakes. He's the 3rd fastest man ever in the 200 meters, holds the American record in that race, is a world champion in the 100 meters, but he's never won an Olympic gold medal, and he's 27 years old. That's crazy. Yeah, so his first Olympics, really, the pandemic kind of like threw off his cycle. And it's funny how we don't really talk about this very often, but like Olympians' careers can often just be defined by what year they're born. Lyles finished 4th of the trials when he was 17. Amazing performance, but you missed the, you don't go. So he's going to go to his first Olympics at 22. Oh, wait, the pandemic happened. So his first Olympics is 23 years old. Yeah. And now he's 27. So he's got a lot of he's in getting deep into his prime and still he's only had one chance at a gold medal, and it was when he was at the absolute nadir of his form. He went through a lot of mental health issues. His training suffered, and he finished 3rd at the Olympics. It's the worst he's ever finished in a race as a professional.
Wow.
So now he comes in here and he is all the way through the other side at the very top of his form. He wants to break Usain Bolt's 19.19 second record in the 200. It's possible. This track is amazing and the crowd is crazy. And he really is a guy who thrives off energy. He's one of the favorites in a very crowded 100-meter field. Kashane Thompson of Jamaica is the favorite in that race. But certainly, if Noah runs his best, it's going to take a massive performance to beat him. And the U.S. will be huge favorites in the 4x100 relay.
That's going to be so fun. I love the relays.
That'll be a great race. In the U.S., if they don't drop the baton, they should just annihilate the field, honestly. And Noah Lyles will run the anchor leg, presumably, win what could be his 3rd gold medal. But we're going to find out early if he has a chance for that triple he's been eyeing, because the men's 100 is comes in one of the first nights of the track.
Yeah. It's so funny. We have all these sprinters whose names and stories we know so well, but we haven't really seen them run or perform up to their potential at the Olympics. Another one of those, of course, is Sha'Carri Richardson. She's a sprinter in the women's 100-meter race, and she's making her Olympic debut this year in Paris after she was banned in Tokyo in 2020 after she had this incredible trials where she kind of burst onto the scene. I remember the flame-colored hair, and she was just, as she put it, she was that girl, and she kind of took over everything. But then she tested positive for cannabis that she said she used to cope with the death of her mother. And so she's going to be here in racing. And are the stakes as high for her as they are for Noah Lyles? Is it kind of the same situation?
Yes and no. And so her program is not going to be as deep. She finished 4th at trials in the 200, so she's only racing the 100 individually.
Okay.
And certainly she'll be on the women's 4x100 team as well. But the stakes are high for her, I would say, in this sense. She's just as heavy as a favorite as there is in the sprints, largely because of what we talked about. Those Jamaican rivals are not here. This is kind of a huge chance for her to win a gold medal.
Okay.
But she's still awfully young. But yeah, I mean, I think she's, if anyone, has to carry the burden of like expectation to win a medal, it's her, just because the field, between injuries and Americans who didn't make the top 3 at trials, 3 of the fastest 8 women in the world this year are not in the 100-meter competition.
Whoa, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 other athletes I want to touch on quickly is Cindy McLaughlin-Levrone, the American hurdler, and Mondo Duplantis, the Swedish-American pole vaulter. And those 2 athletes are just like completely dominant in their events.
That's right. I mean, those 2 you'd have to say are kind of on their own level in the whole track and field meet. Not only are they sure bets to win a gold medal, they're like pretty sure bets to break their own world records for the billionth time. McLaughlin has broken the world record 5 times in the past 3 years in the 400-meter hurdles.
Wow.
And Mondo Duplantis has broken his own world record 8 times.
Hell yeah.
Always by 1 centimeter.
Wow.
Well, because when you set the world record in your contract, you get a bonus. And so I don't think Mondo Duplantis has ever copped this, but it's widely sort of accepted that he is, because he's cleared those bars by like quite a bit and been like, all right, cool, I'm done. See you at the next meet.
Yeah.
Up that baby another centimeter and cut the check.
That's awesome.
So
good for him.
Yeah. Speaking of, you have to check out the work that Bonnie Berkowitz and her team did on our website about Mondo Duplantis.
I saw the video.
There's a video with a description of how pole vaulting works and what makes Mondo Duplantis special, and it is mind-bogglingly good and slick and awesome.
Cool. We will link to that in the show notes for sure. Kilgore, are there any other rivalries, any other names that people should be watching out for in the track?
I don't know if this is broken through in the United States or if it will, but in like the sort of global track world, the race that everyone wants to see is the men's 1500. That is Great Britain's Sam Kerr against Norway's Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Of course.
And these are 2 that plain don't like each other.
When you get an Ingebrigtsen in there, how could you not?
Little Keith Jackson for you. No, so Ingebrigtsen, as like a 20-year-old, blew away the Olympic record in Tokyo and looked like he was gonna just have a run away,
I remember him.
Float away from the field. He got some injuries, and all of a sudden Sam Kerr started beating him. And they've just talking like loads and loads of trash at each other. So at one point, Kerr broke the 2-mile world record, and Ingebrigtsen just popped off and said, like, I could have beat him blindfolded in that race.
Wow, incredible.
Kerr has called Ingebrigtsen insecure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I think Ingebrigtsen seems to be kind of a lightning rod, because even in the mix zone on the first day of track, another Norwegian 1500 runner after his heat came in the mix zone and revealed that he had told Kerr, beat my countrymen.
Wow.
So
oh my God. Whoa.
Yeah. So
drama.
Yeah, it's kicking off in the men's 1500. And, tune into that one if you're an American fan too, because Jared Naguse, the American record holder in the mile, has a chance to medal, and so does Cole Hocker, who beat Naguse at the trials. So
loaded race there. That's
it's
fun.
a very, very loaded race. And at the top, the sort of confrontation between those 2 heavy hitters is something to watch.
Very fun. Okay, last question. Why is the track purple here? I love it. I think it's a gorgeous color. That stadium is awesome, but why purple?
To my understanding, it is a representation of France's lavender lilac fields.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, they kind of nailed the color on that one. It's very, very pleasing on TV. Very dramatic. Okay, so that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much, Adam.
Stay at the track, Ava.
Adam Kilgore is a sports reporter for The Post. Before we go, here are a couple of events not to miss today. Just to note, all of these times are in Eastern Time. The U.S. women's soccer team plays its quarterfinal against Japan at 9 a.m. And then in track, the men's shot put is at 1:35 p.m. And the women's 100-meter final, that's the race we were just talking about, is at 3:20. That's where you're going to see Sha'Carri Richardson race. That's it for today on The Sports Moment. Just a note, we will be taking tomorrow off, but if you want more up-to-date information about the latest news from Paris, you should also subscribe to my newsletter, which is also called The Sports Moment. You can find a link to that newsletter in our show notes. Today's episode was produced and mixed by Ted Muldoon. It was edited by Joe Tone. I'm Ava Wallace. Until next time from Paris.